Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I kind of want to go over my favorite ways to add highlights to my drawings. There are a lot of different ways, but these are the ones that I find most successful and quite varied depending on which type of drawing you're doing, whether it's like whiskers or you want super bright highlights where it's something that's reflective of white light. In the last video I did blending, so now here's a way to show you what different tools that you can use to add those highlights towards the ends of your the details in your drawings. So the first one I'm going to do is etching. Now etching is when you basically take a tool and you indent the paper. So I'm going to be using embossing tools. So this I got on, I believe, Amazon, and like you can get a set of them and they're relatively cheap. And they're called embossing tools. And I'm going to use the smallest one out of the bunch. And basically on the cotton white papers, you want a paper that's relatively thick because you don't want to tear through the paper. So you want to practice and be careful not to push too hard because you don't want to put a hole in the paper as well. So it's going to be kind of hard to see here, but I'm just going to make some indents here. Nothing particular, just want to draw some lines. And then we're going to put pencil over it so you can see. You'll be able to see on your own paper because the indents are quite clear when it's right in front of you, but when it's on video it might not be as clear. But we'll put the pencil over it very lightly and then we'll blend that out and you'll see that that's going to peek through. So now I'm going to take my pencil and use the side of my pencil and you'll already start to see that that's going to leave those spots white, or the paper color, where you're able to actually just add your color over it. This can be a great tool when you're doing drawings with whiskers or fur, anything like that. But it can get tricky when you have focus issues and you're trying to focus on where you did the etching, and it's, you have to have certain lighting to be able to see exactly where you etched. Sometimes you'll find yourself looking really close to the paper. That isn't always good for your eyes, but it is a fantastic method, and in certain situations I do use this. Not as often as I use the other methods, but it is a great one to try out. That way you don't have to worry about the ending where you're doing the etching at the beginning of the drawing versus the ending of the drawing. So now let me just add one more layer and then I'm going to blend it with solvent and show you the way to do that without getting too much of that pigment into those indentations. So I'm going to take a filbert brush, just a tack-on bristle brush, and my solvent. Any solvent is fine. You don't have to use it one over the other. Just make sure you wipe off a lot of it. You don't want too much solvent. Just a very little, and I'm going to just use kind of the side of my brush see how those highlights are still sticking through. You can see them. That's one of those methods that when I first started out I used etching a lot until I kind of realized some other tools, because not everybody likes to it's not damaging the paper, it's altering the paper as far as I can tell. Now if any pigment does get in there, you can just go through with an eraser or an eraser like this and go right over those lines and it comes right up. Actually easier than if it wasn't in there, because the edges where right before it indents into the paper, this basically wipes off any of that starts curling over. So that is etching, and that's one of those tools that I definitely recommend you try, and try it on different papers because it does have different effects on different papers. So now the slice tool, which I did a video on slice tools, and I used some old drawings and went through to kind of show you the difference on going back to my old drawings and trying to enhance them a little more with the detail, because I had never used slice tools before. But I am obsessed with them now, and you can get them on, I think, the Slice Tools website. I'll put the link in the description. So basically this is like the common, the most common one, I believe. And this is the one I liked. I'm left-handed, so everyone's going to hold it a little bit different. Now, this is one of those things where if you need super fine detail, this is the way to go. I mean, look how thin that detail is. So if you're drawing fur, look how perfect. Or hair, and you're adding some highlights in the brightest section of someone's hair. And the best thing about it is it's ceramic. It's not an X-Acto knife. X-Acto knives are metal and they're very, very sharp. It's ceramic. It's a little bit safer. Obviously, you don't want to, press too hard on anything, but it's just a great, great tool, and it lasts so long, where the blades will get dull, but these don't really get dull. I mean, I'm barely touching the paper, and it is making just those fine, fine hairlines just so effortlessly. And that's just such a cool way to create texture and highlight. All right, white marker. My preferred white marker is the Uniposca fine point marker. You can get them on Amazon. That's where I got mine. Now these you do have to shake before you use, and then you definitely want to make sure you test out on a piece of paper before on a different surface, because if you press down on this too much, then a blob of the ink will come out. But once you get it controlled, this is a great way to control your highlights. It's very, very fluid, and it doesn't really vary in the thickness because it comes out so smooth. So this is definitely one of my favorite options, because this white highlight, the color that's coming out is going to be consistent, and it's going to be the same white throughout the whole thing. And then my last option that I love to use is my colored pencil titanium white and touch up texture. Now with these, it's almost like painting on your highlights. So you have to shake the bottle first. You can get it at brushandpencil.com. I shake the brush first, and then, the bottle. Shake the bottle first, and I'm going to use a liner brush. And a liner brush is basically just a fine detail brush that once you get it wet, it will very, very easily just draw those highlights on without making too much of a mess. It looks like a thicker brush right now, but once I get it wet, you'll see how fine point it gets, and it's very fluid. It makes it almost like the marker. So first what I do is I take the brush and pencil, I put a dot on my other surface. Actually, let me do it right next to it just so you guys can see. So I'm just going to do a dot here. Typically I would put a piece of tape there or do it on a different surface, but I want you guys to see. Actually, you know what? Let me put a piece of tape there. If you put it on a surface that's not absorbent, it works a lot better. All right, so there's a piece of tape. This will work better on this. You don't want it to go right through the paper, so. And then I'm going to take my titanium white powder. It looks like a powder like that. And I'm just going to dip a little bit of it in with my brush. And this is one of those tools where the consistency you can adjust throughout the entire time. So you can add more of the liquid or add more of the white to increase or decrease the transparency of it, which is a very cool feature. Because I found once I added some highlights, they did fade a little bit. So after that, you're going to see that's going to fade over a few seconds. And then the greatest thing about this is that it's light fast and you can go over, it's archival. You can go back over it with pencil without it chipping off, which is awesome, because with the marker, you can go over the marker too, but it will chip off a bit if you press too hard. But with this, it does take a little more finesse and a little more time to, get your consistency right, because you do have it drying as you're working, so you have to go back and forth, but the results you can get is really, really, really amazing. And it's almost like painting with white acrylic, but it's giving you the option to make it more transparent without using water and ruining your drawing. So it's just, I mean, even just like little dots that you're adding to super fine detail drawings, it's one of those tools that is, I think, a must-have. But see how it fades a little bit? So I made some areas a little brighter, some are more translucent. That is a awesome, awesome, awesome feature that you can do with the touch-up texture and the titanium white. So, let me zoom out a little bit. So with the options I showed you, etching, you're adjusting the paper, you're indenting it to create a texture and to be able to do highlighting before you start to draw. The slice tool, super fine lines. The white marker, very bold. And the brush and pencil, titanium white and touch-up texture, one of my favorite go-tos. So I hope you guys like this video. Let me know if you have other things you want me to try and test out. Definitely check out my blending video and the slice tools video on how to use those and how to blend. And thanks for joining me. And definitely leave a comment below if you want any different supplies that you're having a hard time trying to find demos on. Definitely let me know and I'll be more than glad to do a demo video for you. So thanks for joining today, and I will see you next time.